Having a solid investing blueprint is crucial for achieving long term financial goals, especially when it comes to retirement planning. When new dividend investors begin their journey, they typically go through a range of emotions. These vary from the initial excitement of learning about passive income to the fear of investing your hard earned cash and even the frustration of figuring out where and how to start. In this video, I'll be outlining my investing blueprint for dividend investors looking to retire with passive income. Now, let's jump into today's video. So to provide a comprehensive guide, I've split dividend investors into two groups based on their retirement goals. Those who plan to retire early, we're going to say 50 years old, and those who plan to retire at more of a traditional age, we're going to say 64 years old. I'll outline the best path for each group and highlight the key differences in their investment strategies. While much of the path will look the same, there's an important fork in the road that should be taken into consideration based on your retirement age goal. As I just mentioned, the paths between early retirement and normal retirement have a lot in common, and that's where we start. Let's outline the beginning of the journey where these paths are the same, beginning with step one. The first step in your journey, no matter the retirement goal, should be to create a budget. Even though this seems elementary, this will serve as a vital reference for several points throughout this whole process. The first thing you want to do to create a good budget is identify all the sources of income, such as salary, bonuses, side hustles, government funding, spousal support, etc. Next, you'll need to identify all of your expenses. This includes things like your rent and your mortgage, your utilities, your transportation, food, entertainment, subscriptions, medical, debt payments, and many more things. Lastly, you'll want to add up all your expenses as well as all your income sources for future reference. Once that is done, that will take us into step two of the process, which is paying off your debt. In step two, the goal is to work towards becoming debt free. The term debt free can mean a few different things, but for the sake of this video, we will say that all debts other than your house or maybe even your car payments will be considered debt free, even though it'll be an end goal to get the car paid off as well. These debts could include credit cards and personal and student loans. The reason you want to attack this step with great intensity is because this can severely hinder your ability to save and invest for retirement, as the interest payments tend to add up quickly, making it even harder to save for retirement. The average American household currently carries about $7,279 in credit card debt as of December 2022, with an average interest rate of 20.09%. If this is left unchecked, this debt can quickly balloon, accumulating over $10,000 in interest charges alone in just 5 years. Creating a plan to pay off your debts, such as the debt snowball or debt avalanche method, can help you keep focused and motivated. If you would like a separate video outlining the debt snowball or debt avalanche methods, let me know that down in the comments. During this period of paying off debt, you want to be sure to avoid adding any new debts as not to add any more to your plate. Again, both this step and step one are the same no matter your retirement goals, and both are essential to any successful retirement plan. That leads us to step three, that feeds off of both of these first two steps and also applies to both paths, which is increasing income and reducing expenses. In addition to this step feeding off of steps one and two that I already mentioned, it will also compound into the next steps later in the guide. If you've already completed step one, you were able to see where all of your money was going and you saw how much of that went towards debts. Then, by completing step number two and using that budget from step one, you potentially freed up hundreds of dollars per month that can be used for your ultimate goal of retirement or early retirement. Here on step three, it's best to revisit your budget from step one and see if there are any places you can increase your income and or reduce some of the money you spend to further increase your money left over at the end of each month. Increasing your income is not always easy, but it's always worth it when it comes to hitting your retirement goals. You could try asking for a raise at your regular job if your work quality and ethics supports it. You can look around for other higher paying jobs in your field and begin applying. Here, I would recommend keeping this on the down low at your current employer, as well as keeping your current job until you get another offer accepted. You could take on side hustles like creating and selling products on the side, or doing freelance services to help others to supplement your income. You could work for a rideshare like Uber or Lyft, who offer flexible schedules that will work with you on your free time when you have it. And you could try selling items you no longer need, like old clothes, electronics, or furniture. Now, while increasing your income is not always the easiest depending on your time and resources, there is a flip side of further reducing what you spend each month. Are you able to eliminate any of the subscriptions you have? Are you able to make food at home more often and eat out less often? Are you able to look for better deals or go generic on some of your groceries to spend less on the food that you do eat at home? Are you able to be more aware of the lights that you leave on and how long your showers are to help with the utility bills? Are there any low cost or free activities you could do for entertainment instead of some of the more costly options? Have you tried calling service providers such as internet or cell phone companies to see if they can negotiate your bill or reduce your services? In combination, increasing your income by $100 to $200 per month, as well as reducing your expenses by another $100 to $200 per month, can add $200 to $400 per month towards that goal you set. Keeping in mind that this feeds into step number 4, which is to fund an emergency fund. If you haven't seen how steps 1 through 3 all feed into each other nicely to this point, the picture should start to become clearer here. It is widely recommended that people keep anywhere from 3 to 12 months of monthly expenses in a savings account in case of an emergency. These emergencies can range anywhere from a loss of a job to a large unexpected bill. The point of an emergency fund is to be able to cover a job loss or a large unexpected bill without going into debt that you just worked so hard to get out of. I personally always like to keep 1 month's worth of expenses in my checking account and 5 additional months in my savings account for my emergency fund. And as promised, this all ties in with the first 3 steps to this point. By creating a budget to see where you're spending all your money, paying off your debts, and increasing your income and or reducing your expenses, you now need less money just sitting in this account for that rainy day when it inevitably comes, which will take less time to build and give you more money to invest towards that retirement goal. This brings us to step number 5, where we finally get to start investing. Step number 5 is to get your employer match in your 401k. Commonly referred to as free money, it is very important to take advantage of your employer match in your 401k offered by your employer. As of 2020, the average 401k employer match was 4.5%, while the median match was 3%. In simple terms, if you were to make the average income in 2022 of $60,357 per year and your employer matches 4%, you'd be adding $2,414.28 to your 401k. But with the employer match, they would also throw in an extra $2,414.28, bringing that total to $4,828.56. Some important things to remember here are that the money in this account will likely be invested, which means over time it has the potential to increase in value from not only your contributions and the company's contributions, but also capital appreciation. Another thing is most companies also have what is called a vesting period, which simply put is the amount of time before the company's matching money becomes your money. The most common vesting time period is 3 years, which means as long as you are still with that company for 3 or more years, any money they add will be your money if you ever leave that company. Lastly, the money you add to this account comes off your income before taxes are taken out, which means you will have less money to tax each paycheck, resulting in less paid to Uncle Sam and more money for you. Now, let's move to step number 6, which is maxing out your Roth IRA or an HSA. After adding just enough to your 401k to get your employer match, the next step will be to open and max out a Roth IRA as well as maxing out your HSA. While these are listed on the same step, there are some things to note on each of these types of accounts. For an HSA, you will need to have a high deductible health plan through your employer to be eligible for this type of account. Therefore, if you or your family make good use of your current health insurance by going to the doctors frequently or you have a lot of surprise visits per year, this account might not be right for you. If this account is right for you and offered by your employer, you can add up to $3,850 for self coverage or $7,750 for family coverage per year that is also pre tax. So, once again, it gives you more money and less to the government. For the Roth IRA, these are the important things to remember. This money will be added post tax, but the money will be tax free when the time comes to use it in retirement. For the Roth IRA, there is a limit of $6,500 for those under 50 years old and $7,500 for those over 50 years old that can be added each year. And lastly, you don't have access to the gains for this account tax-free and without penalty until you are 59 and a half years old. Now, up until this point in the video, both people, early retirement and traditional retirement, would have been on the same path with steps 1 through 6. Here is where that fork in the road begins I was telling you about earlier. First, we're going to cover the folks like me that have goals of early retirement. Once steps 1 through 6 have been completed as outlined, you will actually open a taxable brokerage account and begin adding money to this account. You can do this on a monthly basis by writing it into your budget, or how I do it, where I spend the first half or so of the year adding money into my Roth as quickly as I can. And once that's maxed, I then dump the remaining money I save for the rest of the year into my taxable account. The reason you want to go this path is because most retirement accounts or funding that one might expect to get are behind some kind of age wall that restricts or penalizes access before the age of 59 and a half. If your plan is to retire before that, you're going to need to be able to fund your early retirement with a non-retirement account between say 50 and 59 and a half. And that's where this taxable account comes in, as you have access to use it at any time. Now, let's see the other side of the fence where we look at step 7 if your plan is to retire at a traditional age. If you're starting a little later in life or just ran the numbers and know you will need to work until the traditional retirement age, your step 7 will be to return back to your 401k that we talked about in step 5 and max it out. As of 2023, the max amount you can add to a 401k is $22,500, which again is taken out of your income pre-tax, which means less of your actual income is taxed. For example, if you make that same $60,357 a year we spoke about earlier, you would be adding 37.2% of your income to the 401k to reach that $22,500 limit. And this is with you also getting that 4% match from the employer for a free $2,414.28, bringing your total contribution to $24,914.28 a year. You would also subtract that $22,500 from your income, which would leave you with $37,857 per year in taxable income, which is equivalent to $18.20 an hour. That might sound like a really low amount of money for somebody to live off of, and while that could be true depending on where you live, it also depends on how well you did at reducing your expenses and getting out of debt from earlier in the video. If you look at your budget and can comb off a few $100s each month in debt payments and another 100 or two in reduced expenses, you might be a little closer than you think. Now, if you're able to complete step 7 with a goal of traditional retirement, step 8 would be to begin funding a taxable account, just like the retire early counterpart. If you're able to get your employer 401k match, fully fund a Roth IRA and HSA, and then return and fully fund the 401k and still have funds left over, this is where you would go for the taxable account in the traditional retirement path. Even though this avatar would be over that 59.5-year-old threshold to have access to the retirement accounts, additional money to invest would be best used in this account since you can access it at any time. If you all take anything away from this video, I want it to be this. No matter what age you are, it's important to start planning for your retirement as early as possible. By following these steps outlined in the video, you can take control of your finances, reduce debt, and maximize your retirement savings. Whether your goal is to retire early or retire at a traditional age, the key is to start planning and taking action now. By doing so, you can set yourself up for a comfortable and financially secure retirement. I wanted to really thank you all for watching today's video. If you have not left a like on the video, please consider doing so as it helps me get my content to others here on YouTube and it won't add anything to your monthly budget. Please also consider subscribing and ringing the bell so you don't miss any of the other content I have coming to the channel, and use the comments down below for any suggestions for future content you want to see. But until next time, see you.